Hello everybody and welcome. This is Nathan on Shuffle and this is today's episode of New Music Friday. It's September 24th, 2021 and I have some really cool and exciting news to talk about from various parts of the progressive sphere today. But before I get into the news items, I kind of wanted to make an announcement of an upcoming show. I'm really quickly approaching my 100th episode of Nathan on Shuffle, which is kind of crazy. You know, I guess I put out a ton of content because it's been, 4 or 5 months since I started this channel, and to already be approaching sort of a milestone is really kind of crazy to me. But I wanted to do something kind of special for my 100th episode. So it's going to be kind of a retrospective of the channel so far, maybe some resetting of what to expect from the channel moving forward, kind of a good introduction for new people coming in, as well as a good celebration for my existing subscribers. I'm going to have Jana on board with me, and we might introduce kind of a new show that we've been discussing to start up. So a lot of cool things, but as part of the 100th episode celebration, I kind of thought it would be fun to do kind of a Q&A, get some questions from my subscribers, from my viewers, and to answer those during the show. Questions both for me and for Jana. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it here really quickly, is I'd love it if people would put in the comments perhaps some questions that they're interested in asking me or Jana or both of us collectively. And they can be about music, they can be just personal things perhaps that you've been curious about us, and we'll select some of these questions and answer them in that Q&A show. And if you prefer not to put it in the comments, you can message me on any of my social media platforms if you prefer that method to give the questions. My email is a fine way to go about it, nathanonshuffle@gmail.com. Message me, wherever, Twitter, Instagram. I'm very open to receiving feedback and receiving questions that way. And if you just have items that you think would be interesting for our 100th show to consider, that would be great as well. So just wanted to put that out there now. It's probably going to be in a few weeks. In mid-October is where I'm plotting out where I'll hit that 100th episode mark. So you could kind of pencil that in on your calendars. I'm still working through the details, so I don't know if I want to set an exact date on it yet, but I'll be talking about it in the next few shows as well, and kind of asking for comments and questions throughout the next few shows. So hopefully that's of interest to you guys, and I hope that'll be a fun show to do. So I'm really excited about it, and Jana's really excited about it. We're going to do it together as a team, and it should be a great experience. So, and I'm really excited because I'm getting near reaching a different milestone of having 1,000 subscribers, which is really exciting to me as well. There's times in the channel where new subscribers kind of trickle in, and then a video will really make its mark and get me several more subscribers. So we'll see if I'll hit that 1,000 subscribers by that 100th show. It's kind of my goal and what I would like to see happen, but it may not. There's only a few weeks, and that is quite a big jump from the lower 900s that I'm at now. So, but we'll see. I would be excited about it. So if there's any way you guys could help me to introduce my channel to other people, or not that I do this for the subscribers and for that sort of thing. I do it for fun and to be able to recommend and introduce people to new music. But it's always fun to see that support and to see the growth and to see that the things I'm doing on my channel are actually, creating interest, and that people actually like what I'm doing, and that it's garnering some measure of small attention. I know I'm small potatoes compared to all these other big YouTubers around me that I'm sure many of you are huge fans of. But, in my small corner of the YouTube realm, I'm excited about the progress and getting to maybe a small milestone of that 1,000 subscribers. So just wanted to put that out there before I get into the few news items I have for the week. So hopefully you guys are okay with that, and please let me know if there's any feedback or suggestions for that 100th episode, which I hope will come in the beginning to mid-October area. So now getting into the news, I think the biggest thing that's happening in Prog, the biggest thing that I hear people discussing in the progressive rock sphere, is the beginning of the new Genesis tour. The last Domino tour started in Birmingham, England on Monday, September 20th. So this past Monday was the start of this huge, massive tour that everyone's been talking about and speculating about. and there's been documentaries about this tour, so it's a big deal in this progressive rock genre. And so I definitely wanted to touch on it and talk about it. There's been videos popping up of recordings from that concert and different articles, talking about reviewing it or talking about what went down and so forth. So I have a lot of interest in that, even though there's no dates coming near me and I'm not able to attend the tour. I'm very interested in how it proceeds and how it's going, because it's a kind of a landmark deal. This is a seminal, one of the big giants of progressive rock doing what could be one of their last tours, at least in this configuration. So it's important. And I know there's a lot of people who probably wish they did more of their prog stuff. I know a lot of the stuff they do in their more modern current tours is more geared towards their more popular material from like that 80s period where they were really had a lot of hits and had a lot of great, radio play and all that kind of stuff. And some people kind of turn their nose up at that. And, I like all eras of the band, but of course, as a progressive rock nerd, I do love the Peter Gabriel classic 70s era. So that's what my focus is on when I listen to Genesis. And, there's spots of that in their set list. I have their set list here. And if you don't want to be spoiled on their set, maybe you're going to one of their concerts upcoming, you could skip ahead in the video or so forth. I'll only be touching on things. I won't go through every single song on the set list. But there's little bits and pieces of kind of their prog roots and background that was kind of fun to see. They're doing at least a bit of Cinema Show. They're doing The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. They're doing at least an excerpt of Firth of Fifth. I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe harkens back to that classic Selling England by the Pound era. Of course, their encore involves a bit of Dancing with the Moonlit Night and Carpet Crawlers from The Lamb. So they are touching upon that material, but of course, probably the biggest bulk of the concert is mostly their 80s material and the things that they did in that period. But it's still really interesting and really fascinating material that I think is worthy to have some focus in this tour. And there's some cool little highlights as well, some stuff from Duke, and I think Duke is a fantastic record, so it's cool to see some Duke cuts on this. One cool bit, they're playing Duchess on the tour, which looks like it's the first time they've played that since 1981, so kind of a cool feature that they're bringing that back and playing that on this tour. So it seems like a really solid set list, and I think it's a great little retrospective of their career, even if it leans more into that pop 80s era. I think it's understandable and definitely makes sense that that's what they'd play on their tours. So I think this is a fantastic show. I'm jealous. I wish I could go attend it. I think it's great. So of course, the band right now, the core lineup is Phil Collins, Mike Rutherford, and Tony Banks. Definitely a classic threesome there. Joining them on stage is Daryl Sturmer and Phil's son Nick, playing drums, because Phil Collins can't really play the drums anymore in his current physical condition. He's mostly just kind of sitting on the stage and singing the songs, and a lot of people have talked about that, about his health and things of that nature. But it sounds like from the few videos I've seen of the concerts and so forth that he's doing really well and the band's doing really well, and they're really making a big spectacle and event of this, and people are really commenting positively. At least the majority of the things I've seen have been very positive about it. So, maybe a kind of expected set list based on their previous tours, but a little, some little surprises in the mix. So kind of a cool bit of news there, I think. Also, a lot of people I've been seeing in the comments, maybe on Twitter and so forth, kind of an interesting development is Steve Hackett is also doing his tour kind of around the same time, doing a lot of similar dates. And he's, of course, more focused on kind of the classic Peter Gabriel era Genesis, more so than that 80s later period. He's more focused on that. So a lot of people almost prefer Steve Hackett's concerts to this lineup. So, but I think you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get Steve Hackett's stuff where he brings on a host of prog musicians to kind of play this classic Genesis material. And then you get to see these legends, Tony Banks and Phil Collins and Mike Rutherford playing this material that they worked on together. A lot of it focused on their period in the 80s. So you kind of get both sides of the spectrum, and both are incredible, and I would love to attend either one. I'm hoping to attend Steve Hackett's show at some point. I gotta imagine it's going to come my way at some point. It's something that I've really missed out on, and I've talked about this, I believe, in several New Music Fridays, but definitely one I would take my dad to and really be excited about, because he plays right in the lane of the Genesis that I love. And his solo work is also great. I'm sure he puts in some of his solo material into those concerts. And his latest solo album, Surrender of Silence, is really a strong one. So really cool stuff from the Genesis camp. And it's kind of fun. You get kind of two iterations almost of Genesis and kind of get both sides of the coin. And I think both are doing a great job right now. Both are really positive and getting a lot of positive attention. So, and then I wanted to talk a little bit about Marillion, which has been kind of a feature on this show. I feel like I've talked a lot about Marillion and kind of the small details that are coming about their upcoming new album. We got some bits of information here. We got a title for the upcoming album, which is going to be called An Hour Before It's Dark. I saw on social media they kind of like did the acronym, the letters of what it would spell out, and had people guess what the title might be based on just the first letters of each word in the title. And so that was kind of a funny way to kind of reveal the title. But sounds really cool. And there's some interesting, like they've kind of talked a little bit about what to expect from the album. There was kind of some thought about like the pandemic and would they be talking about the pandemic in their new album. And they kind of set out not to talk about it too much because they didn't want to just fall in line with all the other artists that are talking about COVID and the pandemic in their new artistic statements. But it's really, they said that's really something they can't ignore. You know, it's just such a part of life. So it's obviously going to come into the music as well. But they talk about a lot of social issues, it seems, in their music. You know, he talks about, I believe this is Steve Hogarth who is talking about this, saying, however, the pandemic isn't our biggest problem. The mass extinction and the climate gone mad is where we really need to blow our economies, personal and national. We're going to have to save the earth, whether we're hippies or billionaires. It's got to be our number one priority. We're going to have to be hard on ourselves. It was this thought that shaped the overall lyrical arc of this album. So a lot to do with kind of the earth situation and maybe some climate change style stuff and things about, you know, where we're at as a nation, as a world, you know, what's happening in the state of things. So that should be interesting, rich lyrical content. But they say that despite the fact that it's kind of a bleak concept, musically, it's rich and maybe their most upbeat work for many years. Sounds like a pretty eclectic grab bag here of, you know, maybe some darker themes, but some more upbeat music as well. So I don't know. Just I wanted to mention that as kind of, you know, just giving some measure of an idea of what to expect from the new Marillion. So that should be coming out in early next year, early 2022. And sounds like they're preparing for an upcoming tour that's going to feature at least some music from the new album. At least the single Be Hard on Yourself should be being played on the tour. They're going to be sending out that song for people who pre-order the album so they can hear it before they play it on tour. Sounds like they're reaching kind of the end of their recording process. It says the recording process is now complete, and Michael Hunter will commence mixing any day now as a collection of songs that's sounding very strong. All 5 of us are well excited at what we've created, and Lucy reckons it beats fear. Praise indeed. So really cool to see that they're making such progress on the record. And as I keep continually talking about, Marillion's a band that I feel like I should be in love with because of all the other bands surrounding them that I love. And I still haven't totally connected with them in the way I wish I did. You know, I like several albums, I like things here and there, but just as a whole, I haven't really delved too far into their music. And something I hope to remedy. So maybe this new album will spark that project to want to listen to more of their albums. They also are doing kind of this new big reissued version of Fugazi, their second album. You know, that is something I've seen come about, something I've been considering picking up because it seems like a really cool new package of it that just was released. So definitely some cool stuff happening in the Marillion camp that I thought was worth showcasing and talking about here. So beyond that, I kind of wanted to bring up some new progressive rock singles, songs that I've seen come out by notable prog bands this past week and so forth. Caravan, I've talked about them on previous shows, have released a new single, If I Was to Fly, for their upcoming studio album, It's None of Your Business, coming out on October 8th. Kind of a little bit of a simple, shorter song, nothing too proggy or crazy about it, kind of something sounds like they recorded pretty quickly, but definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of Caravan and curious about their new direction and their new music. So just kind of a fun, simple song that they've released in anticipation of their new record. There was a new Big Big Train song that was released, Lanterna. Really an awesome song. Like, they're releasing these singles kind of separately. They just released Common Ground this year, a few months ago. Now they're releasing these kind of standalone singles. They released The Connection Plan not too long ago, and now this is the next one. And these tracks are fantastic. It's really like, how did these get left off of the main album is kind of the question. But it seems like it's maybe part of their master plan to release these singles to kind of continue to gain interest and to kind of lead up to their upcoming tour. So, but this song in particular sounds like it could be on Common Ground. It has a lot of similar themes from Common Ground. They utilize a lyric of Common Ground. Bits of it sound to me like very close to Atlantic Cable. It has that same vibe. So it could easily be placed on Common Ground as part of the record and fit in with that sound and vibe for sure. But it's cool to see it kind of as a bonus track here because, Common Ground is great as is. And to get these kind of additional tracks is just exciting. And I'm excited for the next one and what new music they release. It's kind of a hallmark to me of Big Big Train in general, is that they just have so much material that they come out with. They come out with a great album full of songs and great material. And then there's like all these extra tracks that weren't on the album that are just as good. They kind of did this when Grimspound came out. And then The Second Brightest Star came out not too long afterwards with all this additional stuff that was just as good as what was on Grimspound. It's like, how did they have this wealth of material that didn't even make the main record? That's kind of what's happening now. And I kind of hope that all of these tracks can be assembled into kind of a cool bonus album of a sort, kind of like what Second Brightest Star was. So it sounds like this song, Greg Spotton kind of explained it. This song came about because of an unexpected journey in Italy. I was on holiday in Milan and traveled to the airport to fly back home. The plane that was due to land at Milan was diverted to Venice due to bad weather. Rather than hang around at the airport for a day or two, we rebooked our flight so that we could return from Genoa a few days later. With some time on our hands to explore the city, we ended up walking out to the beautiful lighthouse, which is called the Lanterna di Genova. The Lanterna was built in the 16th century, but there has been a lighthouse on the site since 1128. I like the thought of mankind building these tall towers of light to extend our reach into the sea and to help bring sailors safely home. So that's the concept of the song. As always, Big Big Train always has great stories behind their songs. They're based on landmarks or based on events and things like that in history. So it's cool to see the inspiration for this and where it kind of came from. And it's fantastic. Please check out that track. It's a really strong one and one that stands up with all the best tracks from Common Ground, in my opinion. And then we got a new Dream Theater track. Invisible Monster is the name of the song. Their album, A View from the Top of the World, is coming out October 22nd. And this is, once again, it's a Dream Theater song. It sounds like Dream Theater. And it's them doing what they do really, really expertly. It's hard to talk too much about it. I've heard it, and I think it sounds really great. And just like their previous song, The Alien, it's just Dream Theater doing what Dream Theater do. It's technical playing. It's really strong. There's a lot of musical ideas thrown around, a lot of different sections, and a lot of developing, different time signatures and ever-shifting things. This one, The Alien was very heavy. That was like hit you over the head, like here's a heavy statement, kind of almost like Glass Prison or something, just like really hit you over the head with the heaviness and the metal side of the band. This one's a little bit more, it's still still their signature sound, but it's not quite as heavy and aggressive as that one was. A little bit more laid back in their, at least for them. But it's still, it's still heavy and progressive. It's still upbeat and still really cool. But they call it kind of a more mid-tempo song. They kind of equate it to maybe a Pull Me Under style song that just has some really great hooks and melodies. So I like it a lot. I'm trying to determine, like, they have a very specific sound that they dial into, and sometimes I almost feel like, this sounds like it's very much in line with Distance Over Time and the music that was on that album. And it's like, do I wish they were more innovative? Do I wish they'd do something a little bit different? But then I like the comfort and familiarity that they stick with their lane and their style. They did something quite different when they released The Astonishing, and it kind of like got very mixed reception. Some people didn't care for it at all. Some people didn't get it, but some people really liked it and consider it one of their best. So it was very kind of polarizing almost. But then they do something that's right down their lane, and some people talk about how it's kind of like Dream Theater by numbers, and is it really, worth my time to listen to something that's just like what they've always produced? And, it's like they can't really win either way they go. I like it both ways, I really liked The Astonishing. When I first heard The Astonishing, I was a little bit confused because it was so different, and like it almost didn't feel like a Dream Theater record at first, but I grew to love it for what it was. I came to appreciate what they were trying to do, that they were willing to make this kind of artistic statement. But I also like Distance Over Time, where it was just like, okay, back to Dream Theater's roots. Let's just have a hard rock and cool progressive album. And I think this is kind of going to be more in that style, just more of what you'd expect from the band, but done at an expert level. And I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be strong. And the more I listen to these songs, the more I tend to like them. The Alien, when I first heard it, I was like, it's okay, but is it much different than what they did on their last album? But the more I listen to it, the more I pick out the nuances and hear the kind of cool bits and pieces of the music and how it kind of brings a new dimension, even if it's ever so slightly. And I think this song will be no different than that. And finally, another single that I wanted to mention is Moron Police are coming out with a new single called Waiting for Wastelands. I talked a bit about their previous single, The Stranger in the High Tide. This is kind of a new EP that they're coming out with, just a short group of songs. It sounds like it was just this group of songs that they didn't know how it could fit into the new record that they're working on, so they just decided to release it as a separate EP. And there might be other EPs that kind of similarly didn't really fit into their main record, as they were talking about. But it kind of like is an interesting collection of songs, because it sounds like they're embracing this almost like Western style vibe into their typical progressive rock sound. And I just love the band. They're quirky and different. I loved A Boat on the Sea, which was what came out a few years ago. Really broke them into the progressive rock, realm, I think. And it was just such a solid it was a pretty short album, but it was solid and strong. And so this EP kind of is more along that same line, but with a little bit of a Western kind of vibe to it, almost country-esque, but not like totally full-blown like country rock music. More, it's proggy, it's interesting, but has a little bit of that flavor to it. So just thought that'd be cool to check out. And I'm probably going to be featuring a lot of these songs on my podcast that I plan to put out shortly after this video. So check that out if you're interested. It's on Spotify. Nathan on Shuffle presents the best 10 is what that's called. So just if you're interested, that's not important. I know a lot of my viewers don't have Spotify or don't care to be on streaming platforms, but just if you happen to be on there and check it out, I would appreciate it. So, and with that, that's kind of my news for the week. Those are the main items I had today. As for the channel itself, I was pretty pleased this week. I had a great Jana Reacts this week about big Dream Theater epic. I just talked about Dream Theater's new single. We did The Count of Tuscany, which was a total blast to do. I know maybe some of my audience doesn't really care for the heavier, more metal sounding songs and a lot of the more modern prog stuff. But that one has a lot of different elements to it that I think could appeal to any prog fan. So hopefully you will check that out if you haven't yet, and kind of experience that with me and Jana. There are heavier sections, but it's balanced by a lot of other proggy stuff in the mix. So I think it's a really fun one. We're going to do another one this upcoming Sunday that's kind of been requested a lot, especially by a lot of the Nightwish fans, just to kind of tease that. It's also kind of along a more modern, a little bit of progressive metal vein, so hopefully you guys are okay with that, but it's one that we kind of shuffled into and decided to go with. I try to kind of, I hope to kind of give a balance of some, classic prog stuff that's more like the Yes and the Genesis and those old school, but then also infuse a bit of modern progressive rock in our reactions too, and to pull from some of these requests that we've been getting a lot. So hopefully you guys like that balance and aren't too thrown off by like, oh, another more modern heavy track, when are they going to do the next Yes reaction? We'll get there. It just may take some weeks because we're trying to do a lot of different things, and I'm trying to bow down to the shuffling aspect and just go with what comes up. And sometimes multiple songs from the same genre come up, one after the other. So I'm trying to give that more variety and interest. So hopefully you guys will bear with us. And if you have to skip for the week because it's not your style, that's cool. We'll be back the next week with something that hopefully is more down your style. So just wanted to say that. Sometimes I'm an anxious person, so sometimes I get nervous about, like, are people tuning out because they think we're going too far down one road than another? But I know I have a diverse group of subscribers, some who came in because of Nightwish, some who came in because of Yes, some who came in because of my new album reviews that I do. So, I recognize that not everything's going to be to everyone's liking, and I'm more than fine with people picking and choosing which types of shows they want to watch. So probably doesn't need to be said, but there it is. And then I did a solo album review of the new Cyan record for King and Country, which I still have here near me, so I'll put a plug in for that. Fantastic record, great review. I had a lot of fun doing that review, and it's gotten a good amount of views and comments, and I've been really pleased with the reception of that one. I even got a comment from Pete Jones from the group, and that means a lot to me when an artist reaches out to me and is grateful for my review and my content. That puts me over the moon and gives me just such a high. It just makes me so happy for what I'm doing. Those two things, like when I see an artist reach out to me and be grateful that I reviewed their album and for my comments, and also when I see a comment of someone who discovered that album because I did my review and that it's one that they really liked and are thankful that I reviewed it and brought it to their attention. That's means everything to me. So really pleased with those comments and with the attention on that particular review. And if you haven't checked it out yet, I recommend it. If you're a fan of any sort of symphonic prog, if you love Genesis and Yes and all these classic artists, this is a great modern album that is in that style and is fantastically done and sounds incredible. So I recommend it highly. And with that, I think I've talked plenty. This may be going to be a longer show. I thought it was going to be shorter because I had just less items to talk about, but it ended up being kind of a lengthy one, so I apologize for that. Hopefully you guys can get excited about my 100th episode. Please, like I said in the beginning of the video, put in some questions you may have for me or for Jana in the comments here, or message me through various means. I'll put up a kind of graphic of my different social media. So I'd appreciate any feedback. If you have an idea for what we could do on our 100th episode, that would be cool too. But I'm excited for the channel and what's happening with it, and I hope you guys appreciate the content and what I'm trying to do here. I'm so grateful for your comments, so grateful for the support that I feel from you guys. It really means so much to me. It's boosted my confidence so much and has meant so much to me because I'm very insecure in life, and to know that there's people who appreciate what I have to say just brings so much joy to me. It's something I needed in my life, and I didn't know I needed it this much. So thank you guys so much. Please subscribe if you like what I do here. I'd appreciate any and all subscribers that want to come on board, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. And as usual, please just keep enjoying the music. Whatever music you've discovered or found, please enjoy it. That's what this is all about. So thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.